Welcome to the Unconventional Homestead. I'm Jenny and I'm gonna make salsa tonight. Well, actually, I'm just gonna prep the tomatoes. I leave them in a soup pot that has a colander or a pasta colander in it overnight, I've learned. So this year is the first time that I've made salsa. We've never, not that we had enough tomatoes, but I just had an opportunity with a little bit lesser amount. For my recipe, we need 24 pounds of tomatoes. And when I make spaghetti sauce or enchilada sauce or just tomato sauce, I usually like to have 50 to 100 pounds is ideal. Not that I could ever plan it quite that well, but that is my ideal. So when I had 24 pounds come ripe and really need to be taken care of this summer or early fall, I decided I'm gonna try a fresh salsa. Don't can it. What I did is I kept some out for Anthony and I for fresh eating, and then I freeze dried it. Now, I haven't reconstituted it to check if we like it freeze dried. I think we are going to, because I really liked it. Anthony isn't a salsa person. I mean, he ate it, but I really did enjoy it. I like the fresh. So all mine is Anaheim peppers that we grew, and then tomatoes and onions and some lemon juice. A little bit of salt, but not too much. The middle batch that I just did, probably 3 to 4 weeks ago, I tried lime juice because that's what it called for. But when I first made it, I didn't have lime juice, so I used lemon juice. And you are able to switch lime and lemon juice out. I'll attach an article down below in the description, even when you're canning. And it's good to know like what you can make swaps for. You always want to use bottled lemon juice when you're canning though, and make sure that it has the 5% acidity. You never know when you purchase a lemon or a lime at the store what the pH level is. So you want to make sure that you're using bottled lemon or lime juice and that it says 5% acidity when you're canning. But this isn't canning, so we don't need to worry about that. But I do prefer the lemon juice, so I am going to use lemon juice. But I'm not going to put it on tonight, because what tonight is, it's going to go in the refrigerator and it's going to drip out all the extra juices. I will save that tomato juice and I will use it in a soup later this weekend, and I guess there's no reason to then turn around and can it. I'm just going to make the soup and we'll be done with it. And I hopefully will bring you along for that as well. So all I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to core the tomatoes. I have this, and it's actually a strawberry huller, but I saw it on a YouTube video. I'm not even sure who. Oh, it was Sarah from Living Traditions Homesteads. I've been watching Sarah and Kevin for quite some time, and I actually met her at our farmers market this year, which I think I was a little starstruck. I never expected to be that way, but I've been watching her for probably 4 or 5 years, and it was one of those things, like I said to Anthony, are you sure that's her? And guess what? It was. So she, on one of her videos, one of her subscribers sent this to her, and I'll tell you what, it is awesome. So I have an actual tomato corer. It kind of looks like a melon baller, but it has little zigzagged edges on it, like a serrated knife. And after doing 60 to 100 pounds of tomatoes, my finger starts hurting. So this saves that. I have to use it occasionally if we have a really large tomato, but this works. So you just press it in, twist, and you pull the core out. And then that can go in your compost bucket and you're ready to go. So these are the last of the tomatoes that Anthony ripened in our greenhouse. This year Anthony built a greenhouse this summer, and we have 4 raised bed planters in there. He has some pepper plants, and then he has some like plum trees he started and put in pots, and I'm hoping that I will go get some lettuce started, but I'm really excited. He has a few tomato plants in there and a few pepper plants, just to see if we can keep them and transplant them in the spring and have bigger plants. So it's totally an experiment, but he will start all of his plants that he normally starts. We've had them in our garage in a little greenhouse. We've had them in the house. That was a mess, but it worked, but it's messy. I'll just tell you, it's messy. And so I'm really excited to have it outside, and he's excited to have the natural sun. You cannot replace natural sun and rain. Hopefully we won't have natural rain, but natural sun. He has water in there that heats up during the day. That helps with the heat, and then he can also water with it. So we're really excited. But these he had taken to the greenhouse before our first frost, and they were all green, totally green. So these are red and ready to go. So I'm going to use my RoboCoop, which is a commercial grade slicer dicer, and it's also a food processor. I've not used it very often as that. But anyway, so all I'm doing is coring the tomatoes, cutting out any bad spots, making them so they'll fit in the hopper of my RoboCoop. And when I get ready to put them in the RoboCoop, I'll bring you back. But if the tomatoes are really small, I have some of these that are like striped, and I'll just make sure the stem's off and I'll just send these through. I don't need to do anything to these. So that's a bonus. It's a plus. It's already ready to go. But I will bring you back when I'm ready to dice them and get them into the pot where they're going to drain in the refrigerator overnight to get ready for salsa tomorrow night. I have all of the tomatoes ready to be diced. I have half of them diced already. I did an 8mm dice. They kind of look like canned diced tomatoes at this point. I used my RoboCoop, which is a commercial dicer, slicer, and food processor attachment I have as well. So I've used my soup pot with the colander in it. I already have 2 quarts of tomato juice-ish in the bottom. So I wanted to do it in batches so that I could get it started. I'll dump whatever juice I have tonight when I go upstairs. I will have dumped it into a Cambro, put it in the refrigerator because I don't want this to overflow. It hasn't ever, but I just don't want that mess. And I want to be able to use the tomato juice. I want to show you just using the RoboCoop for just a second here. I already have tomatoes loaded up into here. There's an on-off switch back here. I have a paper towel because it's a little sloppy. So they are quite juicy. The tomatoes I picked for the sake of going quickly and getting them prepped to be cut. I used a non-Roma tomato. I used, fatter, meatier, and so there is a little bit more sauce. But it'll be dual purpose. I'll be able to get some tomato sauce for some soup over the weekend, so it'll be really good. I'll bring you back tomorrow after this has been in the refrigerator for 22 hours, and I will be dicing tomorrow the onions. I have the peppers already diced. I had put those in the freezer, so they're thawing. I'll put it all together, put some lemon juice on it, and I'm gonna have salsa tomorrow night. So till tomorrow, let the juice come out of all of the tomatoes so that it won't be too bad going into the freeze dryer. This is the second night of making the salsa. Last night, I brought you along to dice the tomatoes. Then I put them in a colander with a bowl to catch the juice because I am freeze drying this later and there was no need to have extra juice in it. It would just take longer in the freeze dryer. So I went ahead and captured that juice. I have about 5 quarts of juice that I'll be using later this week in a stuffed pepper soup that I'm making. It calls for beef broth. I'll use beef bouillon to give it some flavor, but that tomato juice will just add another layer of flavor, which will be wonderful. So the 24 pounds of tomatoes are already diced and ready to go. I have the 24 Anaheim peppers that I diced about a month ago and put in the freezer when Anthony pulled in the last of our peppers. I knew that I would be hopefully have enough tomatoes to make this, and we do. The original recipe I'll link in the description below, because I did 24 times this recipe, or 16 times this recipe. And so I'll give you the original as well as what I did. The original calls for cilantro. Neither Anthony or I like cilantro. We feel it tastes like soap, so we leave that out. And then it calls for lime juice, and I have made 2 other batches of this and freeze dried them, and one with lemon and one with lime, and I like lemon better. So I do have an article that I'll link below about substituting in canning recipes. Now this isn't being canned, and it doesn't even give directions for canning, but I think it's good reference for us to have as far as if you're making salsa to can, could you swap out lemon for lime juice and that type of thing? And you can. And you just want to make sure that it's canned lemon and lime juice and it says 5% acidity. And then you can swap them out, no problem. This article also talks about vinegar and swapping out that way, and I'll let you read below for that. But it's good to have that reference in your canning materials, and maybe even print it out just in case, and maybe put it with your salsa recipes or something so that you have it. So I'm gonna get going with dicing the onions. My least favorite kitchen task, I don't know. But I am gonna dice up 1 onion for Mom. She's making scalloped potatoes and ham for our people that we deliver to this week. And I usually dice that up. So I'm just gonna get that done as well. And I can pop that in the freezer and take it out when I take over my crock pot and the potatoes to her. So anyway, I will bring you back when I'm getting it all ready to get together. Make sure when you are getting onions, any amount of onions or any vegetables, and you're cleaning them and getting them ready for another recipe, you save your scraps. I have a Ziploc bag. I will put all of my onion ends, the tops and the bottoms, and all these skins in here for when I make broth. And I just freeze it. I have quite a bit in my freezer, but I'll tell you what, it makes the best broth and stock, and you don't have to use good vegetables then. You can just use your scraps. You can use the tops of celery, carrot skins. You just want to make sure they're washed really well. You don't want dirt in there, but it's awesome. So save those. I just have the bag in my freezer to add to, and then when it gets full, it goes out to the other freezer, and I just make sure that I rotate them when I use them. So anyway, just save some money. The last of the onions. My onions, almost 4 quarts, so or maybe even a little bit more, which is 16 cups. So that's exactly what I needed. So I may have put in one a little bit too large of one, but we're gonna go with that. I have my 24 Anaheim peppers, and I'm putting the juice that is in these because they were frozen. I'm putting that in. And our 24 pounds of tomatoes that have been drained. These were diced. I didn't take the seeds out. I didn't take the skins out. But I did drain them overnight. And that's where I got that 5 quarts of juice I was talking about. Okay, and then where I get tomato juice everywhere. I do like these Cambros because they have lids, so I can store them in my refrigerator. which is really nice. And you can see, and you can measure in them, so I really like that. So with those with the onions, I knew I didn't have to go find another one. Okay, and the last thing is we need between 1 and 2 cups. So I'm gonna do, this is a 2/3 cup measure. I am gonna do 2 of these, and we'll see how that is. So this is bottled lemon juice. You could use fresh for this, because again, I'm not canning it, but I have it, and I didn't use as much lemon juice as I thought I would this year. So I have plenty. Mixing the salsa, I got 8 quarts, so that's perfect. Plus probably 1.5 quarts for fresh eating. The 8 quarts will be perfect to put on the 4 trays of the freeze dryer. I'm gonna get these ready tonight, put them in the freezer so that they'll be ready to go tomorrow night. I have duck eggs in Nelly, the freeze dryer right now. They'll be done, they should be done in the morning. I'll take them out before I go to work and package them. And I'll defrost Nelly tomorrow, clean it out, and get it ready for the salsa tomorrow night. So this will be perfect. It'll be frozen, so that shortens the amount of freeze drying time. I'll bring you back when it goes, I think, into the freeze dryer, or at least out of, so you can see what it looks like. We're getting ready to put the salsa, or fresh Pico de Gallo, in Nelly, our freeze dryer. I don't think it's going to take very long to freeze dry this, but we let the freeze dryer tell us everything. I've had the freeze dryer chilling now. It actually ended up being over an hour. I try not to keep it that long, but I was finishing up some other things. You do want to make sure that your vacuum hose is closed, and I'll press continue. And there it starts. It's just going to freeze. So we'll check back when it's ready to come out. Here is our salsa batch. We are at 25 hours in. And yeah, the trays are warm. You see a little bit of bubbling, but they look good. Very dry. I don't feel any cool spots. So I'm gonna grab these out and we're gonna start packaging them up. I'm gonna show you one last thing. This is the screen. I just checked all of these and they're all ready to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and put no defrost, and that will turn off the machine, and I'm going to actually turn it off and back. Reason being is it's a little loud, and I do want to get it will defrost overnight, and then in the morning I have 4 trays of mixed veggies to put in. Hi, I'm down here with Nelly. The salsa's done. This was our 36th batch. Today is November 11th, and we pulled our first batch out on August 16th. And that was our bread run. So in a little less than 3 months, we've done 35 batches. That's 350 pounds of food. I would like it to be a little bit better, but I am going to say there is a learning curve on using the freeze dryer. It's different than canning, it's different than freezing, it's different than dehydrating. And so even for myself, with all the experience I have in preserving food, it has taken a little while to understand how to use it and operate it and that type of thing. I did turn it off already. I normally will wait and make sure that I check every single tray. I did check them. They're dry. They were warm. They're room temp now because I got all the bags ready and I got 2 of the trays emptied. You want to work as quickly as possible. Reason being is that you don't want the food to collect the moisture from the room. We do have a dehumidifier down here in our basement, but it actually works pretty hard. We can get about 5 gallons of water removed every three days. So I don't want to wait too long. I want to be as efficient as possible, and then I will defrost the machine overnight, just turned off, dripping, and then I'll wipe it down in the morning and I'll be putting another batch in there. That's kind of how I do it, and it's worked so far. So let's bring you down. I have found that this bench scraper works the best at getting the food out. I do have silicone to put on the bottom of my trays and parchment, but I haven't found much that needs that. I think like I did for peaches and pears because they were a little sticky. And then I found I like to do 1 tray at a time because then I kind of know how much will fit in a bag, and I chop it up so that it will be able to fit as much as possible into each of the mylar bags. I then use the 2-inch scoop to scoop it in. I'm using these bags that we got with our freeze dryer from Harvest Right. I like the size. I just would prefer them to be gusseted. And I have some gusseted bags. I'm just using these up before I try to use all of those. This gives you an opportunity to make sure that it really is completely dry and try to fit as much in there. I do like to make sure I have 1.5 inches because I do seal mine 3 times just to make sure that I have a good seal on it. I've only had a problem with peaches. I thought were dry and they weren't. So I kind of stage them. Like down here I have duck eggs that I did 5 days ago, and I'm just kind of feeling them, making sure that they're not getting soft and getting moisture. It's kind of like conditioning for dehydrating is. I'm just checking it over as it's acclimating itself to being out of the freeze dryer. You see I have a little extra that I'm gonna have to put in another bag. So our main goal in getting our freeze dryer was one more way to preserve food. It's not as heavy, doesn't require glass jars, but most importantly, doesn't require electricity when we go to eat it, as well as to store it. Right now, and I think I've been saying this for 3 months, our freezers are full. It's like every time I freeze dry something from the freezer, something else goes in there. But we're trying really hard to start reducing our freezer space, and we have. I definitely have more space than I did. But you know, we've frozen 350 pounds of food in the freeze dryer, freeze dried it. So we should have a little space because that clears some stuff up. So in the salsa, I will put oxygen absorber in each of these bags. Okay, so this is a gusseted bag, and it is my spares. I had my other batch, I'm being honest with you today, was some broth. I thought it was dry. It had been in a long time. It was not. When I put it, and it felt like it and everything. But the next day I came down here and it was liquid in the bag. I'm a little gun shy to do broth again, but I will. I'll find another way. I'm thinking instead, I had put them in silicone molds, and I think maybe what I would do is I would just fill the trays. I think I'll try one tray and see how that works. Okay, so these are oxygen absorbers. I like to buy them 10 in a pack. Reason being, I do have some that are 100 per pack, but guess what? Then I have 100 open to the elements. I have 100 cc's and I did get 100, and so I've divided them up into smaller amounts. You want a small jar because you don't want as much oxygen in there because that deactivates them. So I have one in here, and that's still soft. I'm gonna slide it in there. Then I'm gonna open these and work as fast as I can. Pink says they're still good. Put one in each. These are 300 cc's and close up that jar. I could put it in an even smaller jar. I probably need to look at that. Okay, then I'm gonna bring you over to where our sealer is. I apologize, it's a little dark over here. Nellie's blocking some of the light. But this is our impulse sealer that we got with our freeze dryer. The light will go off, and that means it is sealed. And this is just how I do it. I do 2 that way and 1 this way. Reason being, many years ago, back in 1990, I worked in management for Toys R Us, and we had impulse sealers in our, when we reshopped and refixed things. And this used to burn out or have spots where it wasn't as hot as others. And so by flipping it, I'm able to, if there is somewhere that's not sealing, I'm hopefully preventing that. And this is a bag that I'm reusing because of that broth situation. So this will probably be the first bag that I would use. Here are my 5 mylar bags of salsa, preserving our harvest. I want to thank you for spending the evening with me and Nellie and our adventures in freeze drying. I hope that you'll stop back, you'll comment, you'll share, and of course subscribe. We look forward to seeing you next time at the Unconventional Homestead. And until then, make sure you're preserving your own food.